Have you ever observed how certain individuals appear to possess an extraordinary mastery of the surroundings that encompass them in silence? They refrain from raising their voices. They do not implore. They merely retreat, and in an instant, the dynamics shift entirely. Individuals begin to ponder the pursuit. Consider the implications of your current feelings. Now envision the possibilities if you were to take action. It would yield similar results if one were to refrain from immediate reactions. To all matters if one opts for silence. Rather than the automatic reply, withdrawal rather than detonation. What is your perspective? Consider what might transpire. That is, whether the essence is found when one ceases to be perpetually accessible in both emotional and physical dimensions. The psychological landscape of your surroundings enters a state of turmoil due to the habitual tendencies of individuals to exerting influence over you via your responses, via your instincts, through your tendency towards predictability. Yet the day you opt to retract the modifications to the game, and those who believe they understood you come to a realization they possess no knowledge whatsoever regarding your existence. Carl Jung stated, "Everything that what frustrates us in others can guide us to an enhanced comprehension of our own identities." Contemplate this as you evolve into unreachable. Those who truly find themselves in despair, who becomes vexed by those who seek to incite. One seeks to evoke a certain emotional response. This elucidates further regarding the other than concerning you. It predominantly uncovers the extent of you remains subject to manipulation without upon reflection. You continue to offer yourself to it is imperative to uphold tranquility in order to avoid loss. Individuals who, at their core, were never truly in your presence, and with each compelled affirmation. Every prompt reaction to every sentiment, the response you provide reveals a fragment of your vitality and ultimately, what is abandoned fatigue, exasperation, avoid? While it may be difficult to articulate, allow me to elucidate the reasons behind it. Due to your excessive availability for certain individuals who are unworthy of even a moment of your silence. This video does not pertain to the act of turning. You are re-engaging with the world. It pertains to embracing self-selection, involves a profound journey of understanding. What Jung referred to as individuation, the journey toward achieving a complete and genuine self. The process commences upon completion. One must recognize that silence possesses the potential to be more compelling than a multitude of debates. That detachment arises from consciousness and not from evasion is an exercise of strength. I now pose this inquiry while gazing into your eyes. For what duration shall you persist in being governed by the sentiments of others? How long will you continue to respond like a marionette when an individual prods at your injury? Perhaps it is time to sever those connections and retreat to a place of contemplation. Transforms into an enigma. As one ceases existence, all things are subject to change. One has been instructed to consistently embody present, to respond promptly to requests, consent to requests, even when your inclination is to decline from a young age. You have been trained to perceive that your value resides in the extent of your accessibility to others. However, there exists a reality that may elude many. Has communicated this to you. The clarity of this excessive availability is it is not a virtue. Rather, it serves as a confinement, and as long as you persist in the belief that you require to maintain constant accessibility, either emotionally or in some other capacity, you will find yourself exploited, exhausted, and overlooked as once your utility has diminished. Do you understand the rationale behind the constant availability renders you somewhat foreseeable, and all that is foreseeable transforms into individuals begin to utilize you as an instrument. And you are. Gent mechanism for emotional distress is activated when they seek alleviation of attention validation, followed by reintegration into the shelf exists in a manner that eludes your immediate awareness. As one finds oneself ensnared within a deceptive construct that, attending to the needs of others will foster one may be available for your needs, yet it does not function in that manner. As articulated by Carl Jung, regarding the identity we project through this facade to be embraced, cherished, and acknowledged is essential. Precisely this facade that confines you excessively, it is acceptable, as you indicate when you are present. Overwhelming your reply to communications promptly, even in a state of fatigue, kindly elucidate your reasoning and provide a rationale for your position. Justify your position as though you are indebted to the world. However, the reality is that the greater your positioning at the core of, the more others take center stage, the more you fade into the background. The constant availability of your own essence is a nuanced manifestation of self-neglect. It represents a veiled approach to pursuit. Seeking validation while evading disapproval manage the perception others hold of you. Yet this control entails a cost, and the cost represents your tranquility. It is essential to your well-being. Energy is allocated as though it were perceived as boundless. Yet it is, in reality, constrained. Select individuals who desire your presence in truth. I have no desire for your presence. They seek the affirmation that you offer. Corporate diversion, psychological solace, however, when you alter the parameters, when you establish a boundary, when you choose not to respond to those the same individuals express irritation and place blame upon you, your eccentricity is not solely attributed to you transformed as a result of your cessation of being practical for them. And here is the crux of the matter, is that the greater your availability, the more significant your impact becomes. The diminished worth others attribute to you due to what is excessively plentiful tends to evoke strong emotions. People often disregard that which they do not possess. To attain, one must recognize that what is perpetually available holds little worth. Now, pause and reflect on who is genuinely merits your attention, who merits your presence commands attention, and your listening is invaluable, or perhaps more aptly, who merits your absence. However, prior to addressing that, it is essential to comprehend one fundamental aspect. Why do we yield so readily to our reactions? What lies behind this almost seems readily apparent. An inherent inclination to articulate a rationale, and the solution can be found in the works of Carl Jung, referred to as psychic energy, which is what we shall discuss this in the subsequent section. For your vitality is the sole possession you truly possess, and if one does not acquire the skills to safeguard it, there exists the possibility that another will leverage it against you. If this content, does this resonate with you? Please click the engage with the subscription option and become a subscriber to the We extend our sincere gratitude for your unwavering support. Carl Jung did not perceive the human psyche as a mechanized entity that responds to stimuli devoid of repercussions. For him, the mind functions akin to an intricate energy system. With each component, the interplay of thought, emotion, and action engulfs an aspect of that energy. Is the inquiry of whether the decision of directing your energy, are you allowing external influences to dictate your choices? Each instance of impulsive reaction signifies expending mental resources. When you engage in defense, defend yourself against a critique that lacks substance. One ought to receive consideration when any engages in dialogue in response to a challenge merely to demonstrate your position immediately upon participating in futile conversations. When one endeavors to satisfy those who fail to appreciate your worth are the ones you are investing your time and your inner fortitude regarding what is inconsequential. Provide sustenance for you. And Jung articulated that which you oppose endures. The greater your reactions, the more you entangle yourself. Individuals who navigate their lives through emotional experiences, those who feel drained, are not lacking in strength. Rather, they are misguided. And are you aware of the consequences that ensue? To an individual who exists in a state of fatigue, they embrace vulnerability. And in that state, the more susceptible you are, the simpler it becomes. Predatory, cunning, and strategically opportunistic individuals with heightened emotional dependencies possess an acute awareness of such dynamics. They observe that you lack the knowledge to be mindful of the energy to which you respond. All that you consistently endeavor to address the complexities of the world. And they exploit the situation of Jung posited that a sound psyche is an individual adept at maintaining internal energy. The framework this entails understanding the articulation without remorse. Understanding the art of perseverance, quiet yet unafraid of the awareness how to engage in prior observation acting. For genuine authority resides not in responding, involves discerning the appropriate moments and methods to engage in action, which is feasible solely when you possess a sufficient understanding of yourself to acknowledge your own impulses. How often have you experienced loss? Linger over an unresolved discussion regarding the frequency of your experiences, dedicated considerable time to contemplating what you ought to have articulated or endeavoring to comprehend the manner in which one was treated unfavorably. This represents a depletion of energy without recompense. You are perpetuating specters that ought to be laid to rest, have perished long ago, and the intricacies of feeding dynamics that solely persists. Due to your insistence on the act of responding to psychic energy, resembles a when meticulously safeguarded, a force field generates upon entering a room. You exude an undeniable authority. Regard is conveyed silently, yet when mismanaged, one may find themselves rendered inconspicuous. Delicate and unresponsive, the world lacks compassion for those who yield readily. Consequently, begin to observe your own stimuli that elicit your responses automatically. What causes a decline in these are the precise points at which your vitality dissipates. And therein lies, it is essential to engage in efforts to avoid becoming emotionally detached or indifferent, dispassionate, yet discerning, autonomous regarding yourself. And here emerges one of Jung's profound insights emerge. When one practices conservation, your vitality transcends the anticipated outcomes, the expectations imposed by others, and that causes considerable concern as we are now venturing into a realm shrouded in silence. In the subsequent section, we shall explore manipulation, the depths of those who have perpetually depleted your energy without your awareness. If you believe you possess control, you consider your responses to be deliberate decisions. Yet the reality is more somber than it appears. Your emotional responses are systematically designed, and those who grasp this exert influence. Individuals who are opportunistic find little necessity to elevate their expressions, intimidate, or coerce. Circumstances merely activate the responses. You have been left vulnerable, and your response follows suit. Carl Jung consistently referred to this phenomenon as projection, the cognitive process by which individuals often impose their own perceptions onto others. They are unable to recognize within themselves, however. One must consider an alternative perspective, an occurrence that escapes the attention of many, while others project onto you. You likewise transform into the container for these images, and the additional the greater your emotional availability. One transforms into an unmarked surface for these projections. You are familiar with that acquaintance who only seeks contact during times of distress, the companion who consistently requires your presence. Cherish the individual who extols your virtues. But Salal, while you remain beneficial to none of this occurs by mere coincidence. They are not pertaining to you. They are pertaining to the concept of your alignment with the role you consent to engage in this activity, and what are your reasons for concurrence. As you harbor a fear of letting down, the absence of affection instills a fear of vulnerability. For Suk, the most efficacious manipulation does not occur through raised voices. It transpires in the quietude of remorse, when one might perceive a sense of obligation towards the alternative, when you are convinced of the necessity to be assistance is required and must be provided. Comprehend, even in the face of your own ruin within this context, we arrive at the pivotal aspect of the discussion. A manipulator does not require dominion over you. They merely require you to continue responding to the in a similar manner. Yet upon ceasing to respond, the game encounters a malfunction upon the utterance of a negation. retreating into silence. Rather than elucidating your position, projections commence to dismantle the facade they impose upon you burdens. And this results in departures, individuals disconcerted due to their inability to understand your identity, and regrettably, they have become aware of it as well. Compelled to examine their own reflections, and not everyone is adequately equipped for that. The absence poses a significant risk due to its implications, compels individuals to face their own void. That your silence unveils the internal dissonance they prefer to avoid. Listen, and then the assault ensues. An analysis of the emotional narrative is lacking, not due to your error, but rather because you cease to function as a readily accessible reflection. Jung stated, "We do not become enlightened through the contemplation of luminous forms, yet by bringing awareness to the shadows. When you disengage, when you cease to nourish the cycle, the shadow of the others begins to materialize, and this is intolerable for those who possess. I have consistently regarded you as a means of evasion. Yet what is the underlying significance? Concerning your readiness to engage with the unease of being misinterpreted, dismissed, or even confronted for safeguarding, are you prepared to withstand the stillness that follows the breakdown? Due to the fact that it is specifically within that, in the stillness, a novel form of strength emerges. That is the subject of our discussion. In the subsequent section, you will gain a deeper understanding. The profound impact of silence can often be the most devastating instrument of the human mind, and how it thoroughly transforms the relationship among you alongside that the contemporary world is filled with incessant noise. It surrounds us all, seeks to be acknowledged, seeks to engage, seeks to swiftly triumph in trivial discussions and substantiate their argument regardless of the consequences, individuals, their own tranquility. However, there exists an influence that remains largely unrecognized and even more seldom understood. Harness the profound strength found within silence, rather than the quietude of inaction or timidity. However, deliberate, methodical, unflinchingly clear, the kind of silence that is not absence yet heightened presence. Kyung observes silence perceived not as an absence, but as a rich potential foundation for introspection, transformation. Occurs upon ceasing to react. One commences the act of observation, and through this process of observing, one observes patterns that were previously overlooked, emotional patterns, cycles of manipulation, gains the quietude of self-sabotage, facilitates clarity of thought, can pose significant risks. Individuals who exist to exert dominance. Have you observed how certain individuals experience anxiety in the absence of your response? There is no need to justify your actions when they are self-evident. When individuals fade from your life, it is not necessarily due to a sense of longing for your presence. Your silence diminishes the essence. The account they present. Maintain composure as you articulate your thoughts. You remain engaged. The game, yet in moments of silence, you altering the regulations leads to a state of imbalance. Individuals who flourish based on your response are indeed genuine. Silence does not merely signify the lack of sound. It constitutes a profound command of one's own energy. The determination to remain unencumbered by the emotions of another individual, are the deliberate decision to refrain from participation in conflicts that do not merit your effort. Jung articulated that individuation is the process, the journey toward realizing your authentic self necessitates this separation. For it is only in quietude are you capable of engaging in self-reflection without that the globe's interference should not deceive you. Silence holds its own significance. Comes at a cost that may create a separation from individuals who regarded you solely for your function. Your engagement with it will yield results unfathomable to those who merely observed one navigate. Through their own projections, it will create an impression of emotional detachment, conceited. Yet this behavior stems from a response from individuals who had no desire to engage with your profundity solely in relation to your practicality, and the unvarnished reality is that the greater your As one evolves, the criteria for selection tend to become increasingly discerning. Through your articulation, as you possess comprehension that every sentence possesses a vibrant quality investment, and not all individuals are worthy of it. Accessing your truth often requires moments of silence, is not a withdrawal, it is an assertion of autonomy. The discourse of individuals who have transcended necessity to demonstrate anything to anyone. Silence is paramount. Discomfort arises as it compels the others to engage with their own reflections accompanied by their own intrinsic disturbances, and this discomfort discloses greater insights into their character. In any assertion you make may expose your true self. Your absence requires no explanation, articulates its essence, and those who experience intimidated by it disclose the extent to which they relied upon your asymmetry to sustain their own dominion, yet the most formidable silence does not disrupt the alternatively. It is the absence of sound that rebuilds your essence from the depths of quietude that links you to a realm beyond. External validation. It resides within this internal framework, an environment liberated from the expectations imposed by others that you commence the restoration of your essential vitality to reestablish the fundamental nature. And this is exactly what we will discuss in the subsequent section. Due to merely eliminating external factors is insufficient. Sound, you must reacquaint yourself with the essence of your vitality, deliberately select its direction where it resides, and of utmost significance where it ought never to be squandered. It is essential to cultivate discernment in your choices. One's own essence, if one is currently engaged in the process of restoring your vitality and establishing within defined parameters. You will discover genuine worth in the book Beyond the Shadow provides a thorough analysis. The most significant concepts put forth by Jung are presented. Utilize instruments to safeguard your vitality, establish limits, and re-establish a connection with your authentic self. The self-link can be found in the pinned comment. It is futile to comprehend all of this. In terms of intellectual engagement, if you apply yourself in practice, you perpetuate the affirmation of agreement when your true inclination is dissent, addressing communications that disturb you, engaging in superficial dialogues, and upholding connections that solely exist beyond the recognition of inertia devoid of subsequent action is merely an alternative manifestation of self-deception, is the precursor to genuine transformation. When you resolutely determine to become discriminating, and this necessitates the deliberate practice of maintaining a state of unavailability is not a matter of exhibiting coldness or arrogance. Apathetic, it pertains to the cessation of existence. Available to all individuals at any moment for any purpose, the rationale pertains to the assertion of authority over your own energy, your own time, your own tranquility. Commencing with modest actions is essential. Reacting promptly, taking a moment to inhale before proceeding, departing from a discourse, prematurely being pulled into disorder, disengaging. One can engage with their phone without remorse, asserting a refusal. Today, I express my disinterest by stating that I am not inclined towards it. I shall refrain from participation. Yet here lies the most pertinent information. An essential aspect that requires no justification. Your absence requires no explanation. Your silence is a matter of personal discretion, and you are under no obligation to justify it to anyone. However, for many individuals, this is a reflection of oneself inexcusable due to the refusal to elucidate your reasoning. You diminish the alternative. Individuals' ability to maintain your presence within an evocative account in which you are perpetually the insightful, comprehensible, and approachable individual. Carl Jung comprehended that each process, the process of individuation, unfolds through solitude, yet not melancholic isolation, of a revered state, a period of an introspective sanctuary where one reacquaints oneself with attend to your own voice devoid of the globes. Interference in which you reconstruct your selfhood independent of external perception, however, from your own core. There is a desire to understand an effective gauge for your development. Take note of those who begin to withdraw distance from you. As you evolve further, cautiously watch those who seek to incite WH. And you cease to react. Take a moment to observe who you truly are. Alleges that you have undergone a transformation when you commence the process of safeguarding your well-being. Do not indicate that you are mistaken. Rather, they serve as evidence that you have commenced your liberation. Your unavailability is initially, you may experience a sense of discomfort. You may perceive yourself as culpable. You will be informed that you are exhibiting selfish behavior, somewhat severe. Yet this is an integral aspect of the process of deconstruction in which you have invested one's existence being shaped to prioritize. It is only natural to embrace change as a fundamental aspect of existence. Elicits unease not solely within yourself, but also in all individuals who gain from your previous. The unavailability of version consciousness is basis of the assertion of autonomy when one declines to the realm in which you affirm your own existence. When one withdraws from a toxic, the environment you are reaffirming is that your tranquility holds greater value than any deception. The relationship and the moment you cease to elucidate as you cultivate a deeper understanding of yourself. Respect begins to manifest in your interactions. If it is by a select few, yet not all are prepared for this particular form of presence, due to you, the void of emotional presence will reveal underlying scars. They are reluctant to confront what will be disclosed the extent of their reliance on your emotional disorder to attain a sense of mastery, and it resides within. At this juncture, the fracture occurs, and with the rupture arises the anguish. Isolation, the disconnection, the sentiment that one is forfeiting something when in the reality is that you are merely liberating yourself. However, what transpires subsequent to that? What follows thereafter? The separation that arises from the in the concluding section, we shall engage in discourse concerning this matter of renewal that solely occurs when one possesses the audacity to exist authentically, misinterpreted as solitude, and to evolve entirely on your. It is now imperative to comprehend the reasons behind the solitude of the formidable is the journey towards genuine liberation occurs when you cease to be accessible to each individual embarks on a journey of significance initially. There exists a profound silence, an unsettling quietude that appears to internal turmoil, leads one to ponder the validity of their actions, the appropriate course of action. If you find yourself excessively, it can be quite difficult, and one finds themselves losing individuals who once expressed fondness. Yet this silence unfolds, gradually undergoes a metamorphosis, initiating a process of purification and tranquility to mend, followed by a period of isolation, yet not the solitude of absence. It is the solitude of complete presence. Your own, the solitude of the strong, an individual who has ceased to compromise their own integrity, maintain proximity to others, and within that realm where confusion once prevailed, clarity now reigns, enters into a realm previously dominated by apprehension. Tranquility emerges in spaces previously occupied by turmoil. Dependence transforms into a novel form of resilience. The power of inner completeness. Carl Jung articulated that the process of individuation, the process of realizing your true self, requires one to maintain a certain degree of separation from the group with which you do not align, from the facade that you traverse in solitude for a while stay. Indeed, that is precisely what you are undertaking upon making the decision to embark on a journey of becoming unavailable. You are not evading the world, you are rediscovering your essence. It is at this juncture that one ceases to be, as you transition from being a mere reactor to embracing the role of a creator. You inevitably cease to be influenced by conditions and commence to mold your existence from the depths of your being. Individuals who experience discomfort regarding the absence indicates that they have never desired you for the role, engaged in activity, and now that you no longer conform, they are uncertain about how to engage with you, and Such liberation may result in the loss of certain individuals. However, you will discover your true self withdraw from certain locations, yet you will re-establish a connection with your fundamental nature, shall have all perceived incorrectly. Yet ultimately, you shall commence to earn respect, for in the absence of it, one finds themselves diminished. Extended opportunities await for whatever you choose to become precious, uncommon, indelible, and refrain from being deceived. This signifies a renaissance, an opportunity for renewal, the commencement of an existence in which you are devoid of, no longer willing to settle for mere emotional scraps, for cerebral challenges, for vacuums masquerading as affection. At this juncture, you solely embrace that which harmonizes with your tranquility, with your veracity alongside your completeness, and if you, having reached this point, is due to a portion of your being is already prepared for this, a novel trajectory that a segment of your being has already embraced, comprehended that the essence of being cherished signifies there is nothing to be gained if it necessitates forsaking the essence of self, and the authentic journey towards self-acceptance commences when you prioritize your own needs and desires, even if it incurs a price for solitude at this juncture. I invite you to share your thoughts in the comment section. Are you prepared to face misunderstanding and rejection? Or even despised in the pursuit of your inner, are you prepared to bear the cost of freedom? If this message resonated with you, consider the implications of your own existence. If it resonates with you, please share your thoughts in the comments. Select my "Let us observe the readiness of those present for a moment of tranquility" for this transition, and remember, continue to engage with the subsequent video. It is significantly more crucial than one might perceive. Are you present?